Welcome to STARS Launch Pod, where we chat with innovators who are overcoming challenges, pushing boundaries, and collaborating to make space more accessible and sustainable for humanity, one launch at a time.
It's one small step for man.
Here's your host, Susan Wise.
Hi, and welcome to STARS LaunchPod, Space Technology and Research Sciences, brought to you by starsciences.org, where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. I'm your host, Susan Wise, and thrilled to have with us Dr. Solange Massa, founder and CEO of Ecoatoms, a venture-backed enterprise and NASA partner specializing in advanced space manufacturing and research payloads. Dr. Solange, welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk a little bit more. Let's dive into really what you do at Ecoatoms.
So as you said, we're a payload company, and sometimes the word payload is something that people don't relate to. They don't understand that the load is the part that gets paid for, right? That's a very old word, but it got translated into rockets, and people usually get super excited about everything that it's combustion, right? The liftoff and everything, but that's not the important part, really. If you have the base of the rocket full of fuel and ready to go, then you have a second or a third stage. Those parts are the parts that are important. They have a payload, and that payload is what we manufacture. And those payloads have a certain function in space. The most well-known payloads are satellites, right? Are the majority of the payloads. But there's other types of payloads that have biological experiments or chemical experiments or manufacturing experiments, doing hundreds of coatings in space. And that is exactly what our company does. That's that subcategory of chem, bio, and in-space manufacturing.
So the payload is basically the whole reason that we're going there.
Sometimes that is, and sometimes it's space travel, right? There's some
True.
There's
That's true.
There's travel, there's exploration, but there's always a payload. Whether small or a huge payload, there's always some really functionality to that flight.
But it's very valuable
It's
payload,
very
valuable cargo, right?
Got it. And at the same time, it can be expensive depending on the payload. So yeah, it's the most valuable thing that the rocket is transporting besides human beings, of course.
So what are you doing right now? What's going on with your company to help further the space industry?
So we are a very, very new company. We have already flown 4 payloads, which is quite a lot. And this year we are up to our Hermes mission, which is a DNA extraction payload. So for example, today you got astronauts doing a lot of the work in space. Those hours are precious and expensive. So we generate these payloads that can do, again, DNA extraction of whatever bacteria or eventually human samples so that those diagnoses are done in an automated way. And we're also developing the Anima mission, which is an onboard computer that does edge computing and experiment integration that will hopefully be flying this year as well. So we are on to several things and other private projects as well that unfortunately I can't disclose. But those are more public NASA-driven missions that we can talk a little bit about.
That's really exciting. It's stuff not just to help us in space, but I guess things that can help us right here on Earth.
Exactly. That's the 2 points, right? It's doing things that are hyper automated that can address an Earth market, exactly what you said. And at the same time is always thinking about how we become explorers, but we go there to stay. And to go there to stay, we need all the equipment or many of the things that we have here that need to be space adapted to work well, survive a launch, and then land in the final destination.
Now, I know the astronauts are performing, experiments and doing these things with your payload. Are there some things that are maybe AI related that is like the next generation of experiments?
100%. You're on spot. So we should give back time for astronauts to be doing more important things than just checking on an experiment, because they will have to do a lot of things when we land on the moon. So they're very busy in the International Space Station. People might not know that, but the astronauts have very, very long days. They're always attending to experiments, to maintaining the station. And we need to give them time back, right? Both on the cost side of things and effectiveness. And I think AI it's going to be the layer on everything that we do. We need to start getting used to that. And then the payload has a physical experiment, right? We're talking about atoms, chemistry, bio, whatever that is. that intersects with the computer, in our case, Anima, the system I was describing. And that is what is connected through a GPU or CPU that can run machine learning models and AI, so that eventually we can make those experiments run themselves or self-monitor or really, really give humans time back.
Makes us a lot more proficient, I think, in the long term.
Yeah.
And now you said you're kind of a new company, but I'm sure this has been in your life, your passion for a while. Looking back over your story, what has been one of your aha moments that you'd like to share?
Um, that is a great question. And aha probably means small alignments to who you are as a person, right?
Okay.
So the discovery process for me is not maybe having a macro aha, but
Uh-huh.
having these micro ahas across.
Several, yes,
Yeah,
micro ahas. I like that.
right? Because you are trying to self-tune to who you are and what makes you happy. And that can take many, many years. Or at least that was my case. I always loved space. I was drawing space shuttles when I was a little girl in Argentina, very, very far away from the space program. Never even thought that I would be a NASA contractor ever. I am extremely grateful to both NASA and this amazing country that we have. We have our problems, sure, but I am a great fan of the United States.
Mhm.
So I never thought that was going to happen for me. And these micro aha moments or micro corrections on career wise, who you want to marry, if you want to have kids, all these things are not professional necessarily, but they're micro aha moments that make everything worthwhile. Maybe I didn't answer your question like an aha.
Oh, you did. I like that answer. No one's ever, answered it that way. They
Yeah.
always have just like one aha moment. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that your journey has had a lot of challenges. I mean, we all face challenges. What's one of your big challenges for Ecoatoms and how did you overcome that?
It's very difficult to create the future in the present. So what does that mean? Or what does that mean for me is I am thinking on how we're going to have an Ecoatoms run habitat on Mars. But maybe we don't even have the vehicles to do that at the moment. So planning for the future with the present and with the resources we have is going back from that objective of saying, hey, can humans be a thriving civilization in other planets? Does that make sense? And how do we make that make sense with what we have? So the challenge is okay, we have a limited number of vehicles. What do we send up? What we want to increase the TRL of, the technology readiness level of? How do we prioritize those payloads? So developing the roadmap to the future with what we have is one of the most challenging things, right? Again, I want to put AI and edge compute in each of our payloads, but maybe stations do not want experiments running themselves when you have humans. So marrying the future with the present sometimes, and those bottlenecks it's interesting.
Find a good balance, I
Yeah.
think, of both, because you still need the human element.
Yeah.
And, I'm all for making my job easier, if that's a little AI helping me out, sure, why not? Do you have any advice you'd like to share with our listeners?
Go step by step. People tell me, oh, you've come from very far away and not even knowing a space program really existed in your life to here, which is, it has been a huge delta for me, right? I started speaking a different language to start with. So it's like, there's a lot of things. And I would say, go step by step, study whatever you like, marry the right person, go step by step to achieve what you want to achieve. And the road will become clearer. Don't try to see these larger than life humans and say, I'm never going to get there, because that's not the way. It's one step at a time. So have clear 2-year goals that you want to achieve and always keep on learning. I always suffer a lot. And I recommend people to just place yourself where you're going to suffer. So if, for example, I wasn't good at contracts, I need to become good at contracts. So I'm going to place
Okay.
myself where I suffer, where I don't know anything, where I'm going to be deeply uncomfortable. And if you do that every 2 years instead of kind of a milestone for yourself, that compounds to a decade or 2 decades of a huge delta from where you started.
That's really good advice.
Because if not, you don't have the confidence, you don't have the self-esteem to say, I'm unable, right, to get to that point. But if you have 2-year milestones, you're gonna be a different person after that milestone, and that gets you closer to where you wanna be.
Now, you are, speaking of being close, you are not very close to home. You're a long way from home.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering about what kind of a support system do you have
Oh, that's a great
doing this?
question. So home is Nevada right now. And for me, the idea of home has shifted. Do I have my loved ones around me? And am I with the people I want to be with? And am I doing what I want to be doing? So those are the 3 questions that always go in my mind, right? Maybe home in 2 or 3 years, it looks very different. So even if I'm far away from home, I try to understand home as that microenvironment as opposed to maybe a geographical thing.
So it's good that you have a support system in place. What does that entail for you?
Okay.
Tell me more about that.
So the closest thing, it's my husband and my kids. They're absolutely everything. I'm having that emotional stability at home to be able to confront things that are less stable, right? As a growing company, that is for me is a big basic. So maybe it's not for other people. They don't need it. I do. And that is my everything, my core. Then there's the second layer of support that is everybody I hire at Ecoatoms. We hire very big brains and very big hearts. But it's not one without the other. They won't last long at the company if they're not one and the other, because we need to support each other both professionally and be problem solvers at the edge, really. And also have compassion and empathy with what we're all doing, because it's very hard. And when we are close to missions, nobody sleeps, right? So again, I'm not endorsing the type of work, but it's very hard. So that is my second network. And then of course I have wonderful friends, but they're all circles. Without any of these, the company's not possible. So there's a lot of behind this.
It's important to have that work-life balance to be a contributing, healthy human being. You know, you've got to balance all that together. I love this.
Workday.
I want to ask, do you have a passion project that you'd like to talk about, either past or present?
I have to be honest, my current passion is my family and my work. I used to be a professional singer. I love music. Unfortunately, I don't have time. So I want to do 1 or 2 things, right? Or an 80-20 or whatever you want to divide it. I wish I could say I have a balanced life. I don't. When companies start, it's very difficult. I am hoping one day I can find that entrepreneur that says, I have a great life balance in the year 2 into my company. I haven't found it yet. And I'm not a good example. And our employees here, sometimes they really need to push through to get to those deadlines. So I'm not a good example of that. And my passion project is in the past or probably in the future.
Well, it's good to have goals, Dr. Massa.
I mean, we do what we can. Again,
Yes.
see, we do the best we can, and we're all trying. So no judgment.
Well, I got to tell you, it's very exciting to hear about Ecoatoms, and you guys are on your way. I mean, because we've got our sights set on the moon, and we've got our sights set on Mars, and who knows what, but it's all going to happen, and we need people like you and companies like yours to make this come to fruition. So we're very grateful that you joined us today on the program and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, Dr. Massa. Be sure to join us where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and subscribe. And until next time, keep looking up.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on social media. Stars Launch Pod, propelling us forward, one launch at a time.